Nashville has many great things to see and do, but when most people think of Nashville, just one thing comes to mind.
Today you're at the show that made country music famous, world famous in fact, the Grand Ole Opry in Nashville, Tennessee.
In all of popular music, there are very few institutions as beloved and as key to an aspiring artist's career as the Grand Ole Opry. But don't take our word for it, hear from an authority.
My name is Dan Rogers. I'm the Senior Marketing Manager here at the Grand Ole Opry. You cannot even begin to define how important the Grand Ole Opry is to a country star. The new stars, superstars, and legends come and play our stage every single week, sometimes several times a week. We've been around and in the business for 76 years. That's what's made us famous from Philadelphia to Fiji, as we say.
The Opry's roots are sunk deep in the early history of broadcasting. In 1925, Nashville radio station WSM asked well-known radio personality Judge George D. Hay to program a music show like the one he had made popular in Chicago. Its first broadcast was on November 28, 1925.
It quickly became very widely popular. Folks were sending telegrams in and calling saying, "What's that different kind of music you're playing? This is the kind of stuff we've been playing on our front porches for years and years and years."
Eventually, the Nashville listening audience wanted more than just to hear their favorite groups.
It didn't take long for people to make their way to the studio to actually see what they were hearing on the radio.
So many people tried to crowd into the tiny studio to watch the Grand Ole Opry, as it was now known, that the show moved to 3 different locations before finding a home large enough at the Ryman Auditorium on 5th Avenue North. For over 3 decades, the Ryman was the Grand Ole Opry. It's still referred to as the Mother Church of Country Music. But in the mid-1970s, and despite some protests from Opry traditionalists, the Opry moved again to the brand new and especially built Grand Ole Opry House, located a few miles outside of central Nashville.
It didn't take long to understand that we needed to bring a piece of the Ryman Auditorium with us. So they cut out a 6-foot circle of oak wood from the stage, placed it center stage here at the Opry House. So today when folks like Brad Paisley or Scotty McCreery or Carrie Underwood play, they're standing on those same boards that Brad says still hold a little of the dust from Hank Williams' boots.
That oak circle in the Opry House stage has played host to literally hundreds of music's most famous stars.
Basically, anybody who's anyone in country music has come to play the Opry. Today, you'll see anyone from a new artist like Hunter Hayes was just here a couple of weeks ago, to Taylor Swift, to legends in the business like Dolly Parton and Vince Gill, George Jones, Loretta Lynn, and little Jimmy Dickens, who's 91 years old and still out here several times a week most often.
Even a shy young truck driver from Memphis with a performing style that the Opry crowd just wasn't ready for.
Elvis appeared at the Opry early in his career at the Ryman Auditorium, and there are many stories about how that night went. We know, the facts are, we know he didn't play the Opry again. There's a myth that maybe the stage manager said something to the tune of, "Not that good, don't quit your day job." But what I most love about the Elvis story is that he did a song called Blue Moon of Kentucky, which was written by the father of bluegrass, Bill Monroe. And as I hear the story, Bill Monroe took him aside and said, "I really like what you did with my song," because he kind of gave it a souped up tune. And as I like to say, anybody that recorded music, if you get a thumbs up from the person who wrote the song, you're doing good.
In May of 2010, a devastating flood struck Nashville and the Grand Ole Opry. The stage was submerged in nearly 4 feet of water. Performers had to get their cowboy boots out of there quickly.
A water line backstage really looks like a piece of art to anybody who just happens to walk through, and people are always amazed when you stop them and say, "This is how high the water was backstage." The amazing thing about the flood for us was that the Opry returned to the Opry House in late September of that year, so just a few short months later. Brad Paisley said the night we opened, he always looks for the silver lining, and the silver lining to that flood was how amazing the backstage area looks now. Didn't miss a single Tuesday, Friday, or Saturday night broadcast, but of course, everyone was tremendously excited when country came home to the Opry House that September night.
The Opry's place in the history of country music has made it one of the most popular tourist attractions in the U.S. The Grand Ole Opry Backstage Tour should be on the top of your list of things to do in Nashville.
When you walk through on a backstage tour here at the Grand Ole Opry, you're really walking in the footsteps of everyone who's come before you. You'll see kind of the things they've left behind, stage costumes worn by the greats like Minnie Pearl and Marty Robbins, and then if you're lucky enough, you get to come out and stand on stage where everyone who's anyone in country music has been.